So hi everyone, this is Russell again. Yeah, I'm coming today for a very new, powerful live webinar for you guys. Yes, so we are talking today about the next step. The next step into making, our PPP loan that we receive. You have to make it into grant. That's our goal here. You have to make it into grant. That was also the intention of the government. They say they are helping you with that because you are in the need of it. So basically, if you are taking it and you do exactly what you're supposed to do, it becomes a grant. But many people will not be able to actually follow the path to get that grant. Anything that they give you, they might sometimes put some type of condition on it. But the condition is so easy to respect that I don't know why nobody should be able to follow it. So today, in the precedent video, we have talked about the importance of the PPP loan for the business, given the situation right now with the COVID outbreak. So the government thought that we needed to actually sustain the economy or to prevent the flow of the unemployment to the state. So basically, the government put that money out there to help our business owners to survive and maintain the employees. And we told last time that the first thing to do in order to keep this money being yours, because they're giving to you, it was given to you, but now it has to become yours. Actually, it's still the government money, but you have to do some type of commitment before it becomes officially yours. The first step, we remind that in the actually previous video, that you have to deal with the documentation. You have to prove the government that there's an obligation to pay some type of expense, what they're calling here cost. You have to prove the cost. You have to prove the existence of the cost before February 15. You have to actually make a payment. The money has to leave your bank account. You cannot get 100% of the money into your bank account and you tell them that, you know what, I spent all the money. You didn't spend the money, you didn't need it. It's in your bank account. That's why you have to show the bank statement. So there is a whole video on it. I think I will put the link down below for you guys to be able to watch it if you missed it. That was a really powerful video talking about that's actually the first step. That's the first step if you want to get this grant. The first step is in the video where we talk about the first step of making your PPP a loan. So what happened here today is the second step. Today's second step is actually to let you guys know that when you got the money, you start gathering all the documentation. Now, I have to remember that many people that receive the money on the first run are already on the point of trying to do what we are going to explain today. Apply for the forgiveness. You have to officially apply for forgiveness. So that's what we have to do today. And the government, you don't just apply for forgiveness by calling your bank or call the government to say, okay, yes, I used all the money, or just staying in your house or in your office using the money and thinking that it becomes officially a grant. No, the government came up with this form. The government came up with this form. This is 11 pages. Yes, it's an 11 pages form. We talk about that, but we never actually went to make people understand what that form is actually. We didn't actually go to explain to people how to go, like what importance we should make in this form, in this formula, in this application. Like what are the main points where we need to focus our attention. We have never done that actually. We talk about it, we say yes, we need to go through the process of applying, but we actually never explain many people how to make it, how to go by with this paper, because many people were still in the process of receiving the money. And believe it or not, some people are still right now trying to look for how to get that money, and that was the reason why we didn't actually put more weight into explaining how to get it. But now, whether you receive your loan already or no, you have to know what's going on here. Yes, it's a 11 pages documentation. It's pretty intimidating, I have to confess, when you start reading. Like me as accountant, if it's pretty intimidating when you read it, what about a non-accountant? What about just business owner who just focus the effort of bringing new customer and going with business? So this is what you need to do. We are going to go through this application form today, but we are not going to go line by line or page by page or paragraph after paragraph, because sometimes the documentation is meant to, it's meant to explain, it's meant to instruct you guys, but sometimes it becomes more confusing when you try to understand line by line. You have to understand the spirit of it, and that's what I want you to get today. I want you to know what is, if you were supposed to know about one or two things of this paper that will help you to make your grant forgiven at the maximum. When I say the maximum, I mean it, because the way the law is set up, I'm talking about the PPP law, of course, and the forgiveness process is almost impossible to get all the money forgiven. And that is actually the sad part of this law, because to us it was it looks like an unfair law, because this is what happened. The government gave you the money, they gave you the money, right? Now they want you to prove that you use the money the way they want you to use it, right? They want you to use the money the way they want you to use it. But the rules that they pull it to give you the money, in order to show that you have actually used the money the way they want you to use, is a little change. It's not actually the exact rules. It's not the exact thing. This what happened. We are going to go into the unfairness of how you should use the money that was given to you. I think that's mostly the reason why the new update came up last Thursday, and to actually fix some of this issue. Okay, before we go out, if you are new to this channel, my name is Russell again, Russell Fowlers. I'm an error agent specialized in business, in tax and accounting strategy for small businesses. So if you are interested on new video like this one in the area of financial consulting, bookkeeping, accounting, and tax planning strategy, go down there, subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell, and you will receive any new live that comes up. So let's jump in. This application itself, how does it work? The application, when you get to the point that you have to apply for the forgiveness, because remember, always you have to apply for forgiveness. The process is that you have to apply for forgiveness. You have to complete this application. You have to complete all of this. There are many pages, but the main page is only one. If you do that main page correctly, chances are that you have done all the remaining pages. So you have to apply. You have to actually fill out this application and submit it to your lender. Okay. Chances are also that with all the the stay home order and stuff, there might be a way to do it electronically. The bank might come up with that. Actually, it's still a physical document, but my expectation is that the bank will come up with some type of application, some type of software that you might have to use to actually provide all your information. So again, so don't think that the PPP will become automatically a grant. after your covered period. The covered period that is actually 8 weeks. 8 weeks. But again, there is a new law, the new update that came up to extend. I said the new law. You have not yet signed it, but we have more hope that it might be signed by the Senate. It was already signed by the House on Thursday. Hopefully it might be signed and turned into law. So for now, we are still focusing on the actual law, which is 8-week period. And everything that we're saying today will apply whether or not the law changes. Just the number of days or number of months might change. That's the reason why you need to understand what's going on here. So this application came up it has four main components. Okay, it has four main components. One page is called the application, the PPP loan forgiveness calculation form, which is actually this form. This is the main form that you need to know how to fill out. It has what is called PPP Schedule A. It has what is called PPP Schedule A worksheet. It has what is called PPC, borrower demography information form. But all of these are mostly some type of guidance to help you understand or to help you fill out the application itself. Okay, like I said earlier, this application, this PPP application, what it is basically that the government gives you the money and they want you to do some type of tax return on the money. So it's just like filing your tax return, and except that over here you have to do the opposite. The opposite means what? When you file your taxes, you have to actually, you have to go through a process. You don't even know what you will get when you are filing your taxes until you finish it and until you submit it, that you know exactly what you should get. Now it's the opposite. Okay, now it's the opposite. It means that you have it's like they give you the refund already, and then they want you to go back to prove that your refund. They want you to prove that the refund was actually supposed to get that refund. To go back and show all your paperwork, show how you got to the refund. At the exception that over here they give you money, but the way they want you to show or to prove that money is a little different. The big deal is that this is the first time, right? This is the first time you have to do it. Normally, it should be a straightforward process. Why? Because they give you the money on the basis of something, on the basis of your application. You file the application on the basis of some type of source document. But if you provide the exact source document now, you might not even get all the forgiveness. That's the sad part here. If you provide all the same source document, you might not get all the forgiveness. And that is why we need to let you know why you might not get all the forgiveness, even though you provide the exact documentation that you did when you were receiving the money. So, under this perspective, if you are a sole proprietorship or a single member LLC, especially with not employee, it will be like mathematically impossible to prove it, right? It will be mathematically impossible to prove that you can keep the money. I'm gonna use an analogy to let you understand. Okay, I'm using an analogy to let you understand. Give me 1 second, please. Where's my mirror? Sorry, I had to step away to fix something. So basically, I'm gonna use an analogy to let you know what this law is actually want you to do. It's like they gave you, it's like I give you a car, right? I give you a SUV car, a 5-seat SUV car, and now I'm telling you that, okay, you know what? In order to keep that car, you need to prove that I gave you a 7-seat SUV car. If you can understand this, you understand what this law is. Until they start coming up, and we as accounting, we start complaining about, and the government start thinking and taking it into consideration and start working on it. So if I give you a 5-seat SUV car, because you are in the need, you have a big family, you need a new car, and then I come up and say, you know what, in order to keep that car, you need to show me that I gave you a 7-seat SUV car. That's the reason why I'm saying it's mathematically impossible. So we complain, and the lawmaker, they went there and started working on it again. And if I want to put it into numbers for you to understand much better what I'm talking about, I'm gonna take somebody who is working on his company by himself, or even with other people. He's paid $100,000 a year. Okay, now in order to get the forgiveness, the government has to use the $100,000, which is the yearly salary that you receive, and divide it into 12 to find the monthly amount that he's supposed to pay himself. And then the government gives him 250% of that amount. So if on the basis of $100,000, which is the maximum, because with this law, if you have more than $100, they don't even count you. They don't count more than every employee with more than $100,000 a year. So that's why I'm taking $100,000 a year. So if you are the owner of your business, you pay yourself $100,000 a year, and from that $100,000, your eligibility is $20,833. That means they take your $100,000, they divide it into 12, and they give you 2.5 or 250% of it. But now, when they want you to apply for forgiveness, they say, okay, out of the money that they give you, you cannot use payroll costs for more than 75% of the money that we gave you. So we gave you $20,833. Now, if you want to take the 75% of that amount that was given to you as a loan initially, that 75% is $15,624.09 if you want to. Now, when you are filing for application, you also have to claim the payroll cost, right? Except that the way they give you the formula for the payroll cost, it will not make you be able to claim the way they're giving you the instruction. The law that allow you to apply for forgiveness will not allow you to actually claim up to the amount that they are saying that is the limit. Why do they say that? They want you to take 75%. 75% is $15,624. Now they want you to take the salary for only 8 weeks from last year, not what you are paying now. That means from January to now. It doesn't matter how much you are paying yourself, right? They want you to take the last year payroll, actually the same amount that was taken in consideration to give you the money. But they don't say that, okay, just take 75% of the allowed money and say that is your pay, is your payroll cost for the 8 weeks. They don't say that. They say go there, take the $100,000 a year, divide it by 52, and take the 8-week portion of that money. That means if you take $100,000, you divide it by 52 weeks, and you time it by 8 weeks, which is the covered period. The covered period is 8 weeks. Until now, you have not signed new law. The president has not signed a new law yet. So basically, when you do that, the maximum amount you can come here as a payroll cost is $15,384. That means it's actually 73% of the money that was actually allowed to you, the money that was given to you. They give you the money. They say the maximum you can use is 75%. But when you do the calculation, the max you can claim as a payroll cost is what? It's only 73%. That's pretty unfair. That's how I see that. That's how many accountants see it. And it's not like you can use like 27% for other costs, what is called non-payroll costs. No, you can't do that. You cannot go there and use the 27% because you have 73% here. They're telling you that the maximum you can use the money for non-payroll costs is 25%. You remember on the previous video we said that the non-payroll cost is what? It's basically your mortgage interest, your rent, your utility, you know, the debt, the previous debt that you had by February 15. All of that cannot go more than 25%. Any amount more than 25% will be reduced from the forgiveness that you're supposed to receive. That means if you use 2% or 5% on top of the 75%, those 2% will be reduced on your forgiveness amount. Yes, this is why we are saying that it was unfair. So now what you need to know is what they was calling eligibility cost. So the main thing that you need to know here, the only way that you will reduce your or maximize your forgiveness is to work on only one or two things. The first thing is to work on your payroll costs. The second thing is to work on your other expenses. Now on the payroll side, there are two things that you have to know. You have to know what they were calling FTE, average FTE employee, which is actually the full-time equivalent employee. And you have to know what they call the salary hourly reduction. So basically what do that say is what? They're saying that in order to get eligible, you have to keep the number of employees that you had on the beginning of the COVID-19. And then you have to keep the same average monthly salary. That is what they want you to keep. They want you to keep two things. They want you to keep the cost itself, but they also want you to keep the head count. That's what we call FTE equivalent. So basically, what does that mean? It means that if you are taking the first one, basically, which is the FTE, they are saying that if on the beginning of the COVID-19, you had 10 employees, at the end of the COVID-19, you now have 8 employees. That means you have a reduction of 20% of the head count. We're talking about employee. So you will lose 20% of your forgiveness. That means the amount you're supposed to receive as a forgiveness, you will lose 20% of the payroll cost that was supposed to be forgiven. Let's put it like that. That means out of the 70%, if you were even to come up with 70%, because we just saw here that it's mathematically impossible to come up with 70%, 75%, sorry, even though you do everything that you're supposed to do. Now it's like nearly 73%. Now if you have 10 employees at the beginning and now you have 7 employees, that's 30%. We will actually reduce 30% out of the 73% of the money that was given to you. If that's what they call head count. If in the other side you were paying, let's say, 50,000 monthly, and then at the end of the period they notice that you have been paying people instead of 50,000 only 40,000 monthly, then we will also use the difference in terms of mass and salary. That difference will also be reduced out of your forgiveness, because we go by how much should be forgiven. We go on the 25% side. Okay, You spend everything on what was supposed to be spent. That's good. We go on the payroll side. We check if you have been using the payroll side the way it's supposed to do. If there is not a reduction in terms of the forgiveness, so you have to know, first of all, what are considered eligible costs. By eligible costs here, they want you to consider, the owner compensation. They want you to consider the payroll, the gross wage. They want to consider this, the commission that you normally pay. They want to even consider the cash payment. They want you to consider the payment of vacation, sick, medical leave, health insurance. But the health insurance that you pay for employee, not the health insurance that you pay for yourself, because as a business owner, I can increase the spending by paying a lot of health insurance on myself. So they want you to pay the retirement contribution, to take the retirement contribution as a eligible payroll cost. So they want you to take to account for the state and local tax in the payroll, of course. On the payroll, when you pay payroll, you pay federal tax and local tax, which is actually state tax. But they don't want you to account for federal taxes when you are accounting for the cost. So listen, look, they are actually trying to reduce again the maximum amount that you can claim, because they don't want you to use the FICA, that's what they call it, for accountant and tax professional. So what you need to do here is to know exactly what you need to claim on the payroll side. I just listed it to you. It might change or no, but I don't think it might change at this point, because some people have used that at the point that they are actually trying to apply for the forgiveness. I don't think that we come today and say, okay, you can use this. You can actually also claim the FICA on it. But the good point is that they want you to take, in terms of payroll costs, they want to account for the payroll paid or incurred. The payroll paid or incurred means what? It means that when you receive your PPP loan, you might already start incurring some type of payroll expense, because the next day you might receive the PPP loan today, today on maybe May 30th, and after 2 days it's a payroll day, it's a payday. Now you can use that money to actually pay your employee, even though you have been using that money only for 3 days. But you will use the actual, you will use the money that your employee has cost you for the whole weeks or for the 2 weeks period. That's how we are saying that you can use it for the period that's incurred, for expenses paid or incurred. In that situation, it was incurred because you have not actually used all these days before you receive your PPP. So you have to understand that. And it's good, it's also good because at the end of the PPP, you might have used a couple of days on the period, on the pay period, but you have not used the full day to be able to claim. Like if you have to pay on the pay day, it will have to be after the coverage period. That means the coverage period might be today, and your payday is 5 days from now. But they want you to calculate how much you have incurred in terms of payroll costs from the last payroll day to the day that your cover period ends. And on that regards, you also incur that. That's a good thing on it. So basically, what they want you to do is you also have what is called non-eligible payroll costs. Non-eligible payroll costs is basically, you have said that a long time ago, you have said that so many times. It's a mortgage interest, it's a rent, it's a utility, it's a gas. Now in the law, they put the water, they put the transportation, they put internet, they put a lot of things in there. And they also help you. They say you can also use these expenses. You can claim the eligible costs for those non-payroll costs are whatever expense that you pay. You pay means that you get it today, you get the loan today, and tomorrow you receive the invoice from your landlord. You use the money to pay. It's eligible because you pay for it, right? Even though you didn't actually use it for that period, because you actually use the rent. Like 1 month passed already and you receive the rent. It's not like you have to wait until you actually consume the month. No, you're actually paying something that passed already. And they are saying that you can use it as incurred when you are using your phone bill. Same thing works for the phone bill or the internet. You receive the PPP loan today. Whatever you pay, you can account for it. Now, at the end of the period, you have incurred some type of, cost for those expenses, but you have not yet reached the time you have to pay. You have incurred some type of cost. You can also account for that. That's a good thing on that regard also. So this is what I like on the law, is that they're saying that you can use it, you can account for the cost that you actually paid or for the cost that you actually incurred. Even though you have not reached the date that you're supposed to pay, you can count those costs and reduce it from the money that they gave you, and it's eligible expense. So this was the thing about it. Now let's go into some detail about the PPP loan and especially the average FTE count. They are telling you that, I just told you this month earlier, that they're going to compare how many employees you have at the beginning. They compare it with how many employees you have at the end. If there's a difference, the difference of how much? Difference of maybe three employees. If you had 10 employees before, 3 employees out of 10 is 30%. So how do you actually come up with those numbers? If you only have full-time employees, that's easy. It means that we just count each person, right? One full-time employee is one person, it's one count. But if you have part-time employee, how do you go by to figure out the new FTE at the end of the period? And the government wanted you guys to have that number of employees by June 30th, before the new law came in. So they wanted you to have your full-time employee that you had at the beginning of the period. They wanted to have it by June 30th. That means if you make sure that you have 10 employees at the beginning, and then you have the same 10 employees by June 30th, you try to hire everyone back, you're good. But if in the meantime you are having part-time in between, how does that work? That's how the math becomes a little complicated, but not impossible. They want you to actually use for each employee. So for each employee, every week, divide the number of employees, the number of hours worked by that employee, divided by 4, because 4 is the normal number of hours for a full-time employee. So if an employee for the week 1 work 30 hours, we will divide 30 hours by 4. That is 75%, or 0.75. So the first week, the count for that employee is not 1. It's 75%, or 0.5. If that employee, his name is John. If John keeps working 30 hours per week for the 8 weeks, at the end, his count for that employee will be 0.75. Let's take another employee who is working now only 10 hours, because they cut all the hours because of the COVID-19. He's only working 10 hours a week. So that other employee will be working how many hours? 10 hours a week. 10 hours divided by 4, that is 0.25. If that employee keeps the same number of hours every week during the 8-week coverage, at the end, his count will be 0.75. If you add those two only, what will be the count for those two? It will be 1. But if those two were full-time employees, the count for those two will be what? 2. That's the difference. So if you have a third employee who is working, I don't know, 20 hours per hour, 20 hours per week, you will divide the 20 hours by 4. It will give you 0.5. If he keeps the same thing at the end of the 8-week period, it will give him 0.5. That means the 3 employees will give you 1.5 counts. But the government is telling you that you don't use the 0.5. No. If it's 1.5, you only consider 1. If it's 1.8, you consider 1. If it's 1.2, you consider 1. That means if those were the only 3 employees that you have, your account will still be 1, even though you have the 3rd employee that works, 20 hours per week. So basically, but this is simple. But if you have the same 3 employees, the first one is working 30 hours a week 1, week 2 is working, 28 hours, week 3 is working 36 hours, week 7 is working, so it's changing. How do you go by? That is how it becomes a little tricky, but you can still figure out. What you do for that employee, you sum all the hours for that only employee. You sum all the hours, and what do you do at the end of the 8 week? You divide it by 320. 320. Why? Because you also have to account for 8 weeks of full-time employee. So if you add up all the counts for that employee for the 8 week, it gives you, maybe $240, 240 hours. You have to take the 240 hours and you divide it into 320. That's what I said earlier. If you can't, you take the 240, you divide it by 320, it will give you the 75. So this is how I get 0.75 for that employee. But it might be different. It might be that she works, the total was maybe 300, right? You divide 300 by 320. It gives you 0.9, but 0.9 is nothing. 0.93. You take the 7 employee, you do the same thing. How many hours each employee has been working every week? You sum it for the whole period, the whole 8 week period, and then you divide it by 320. You will get the count for that employee for the 8 week. You do the same thing for each employee. I'm talking about part-time employee here, because full-time employee is different. Full-time employee don't have to do it, otherwise it will be 1 every time. You will be losing your time, because if you are a full-time employee, you work 40 hours. It means you work 40 hours. 40 hours divided by 40 hours by 40 is 1. You do this for the whole weeks, the whole 8 weeks. It will be 1 anytime. So it doesn't mean anything to keep doing it if you have a full-time employee. We are talking about part-time employee. This is the key, because the law is about paycheck. It's about payroll. If you understand this part, then you're good. You might do the remaining work by yourself. So basically, what does that mean? It means that you have to add all of that. You have to be able to trace all this record, do all this. We know that some employees don't really do that, right? That's why the government came up with, okay, you have an alternative method to actually calculate your average FTE, which is actually your head count of employees. They say, okay, I'm going to simplify the thing for you. For any full-time employee, it's 1, right? It's 1 person. It's 1 count. For any part-time, any 2 part-time employee, so combine 2 part-time employee, make it 1 full-time. So if you have 3 full-time employees, that will count for 1.5, but 1.5 doesn't count. But if you have, that means it will only be 1. If you have 4 full-time employees, 4 part-time employees, so 2 part-time you make you 1, another 2 part-time you make you 1, that will be 2 employees. So that is actually how the government wants you to account for the count, the average full-time employee equivalent, to be able to help you, identify how many number of full-time employee equivalents you're going to consider. Remember, we told you that we have to compare the full-time employee, the number of counts, the number of employees, let's call it like that, with the number of employees at the end. And to figure out the number of employees at the end is what I just showed you right now. So the remaining thing, the other thing now is what is called the salary, hourly, wage, and wage reduction. It means, I said that already, I'm just reminding it. If at the beginning of the year you have an employee who was paid 100%, I'm talking about a full-time employee, he was paid $1,000 a week, right? But during the COVID-19, he's been paid $700 $300 a week. That is how much? That is $300 difference, right? Every week. So if you want to count it, it will be $300 every week difference times how much? 8 weeks. It will give you $2,400 that you have to lose out of the reduction, out of the maximum forgiveness you're supposed to receive. But the government actually helps people here. They say, no, we will not do that. We will only account for the reduction that is more than 25%, right? It means if you actually pay that employee only $750, exactly, he will be losing $250 every week, which is 25%. If you time it by 8 weeks, that is 2,000, right? 2,000 here, that is a 25% reduction, because if you time the 1,000 by the 8 weeks, that will be 8,000. So 20,000 reduction is 25% of 8,000. The government doesn't reduce your money, the forgiveness money, because it's only 25% reduction. But if on this case the reduction was not 25%, it's 30%, that means there's a 5% reduction more that will be actually used to reduce your forgiveness. You have to understand this part very carefully. That means you might lose in terms of salary. Over here we consider that the count is the same. That means all your employees are full-time, just the way it was at the beginning, right? But the salary pay has been reduced. If the salary pay to them was reduced by 25%, it's okay. We're not going to reduce your forgiveness for that reduction of salary. But when it goes below 25%, because over here is below 25%, if it was $750, it would be good. Now it's $700. That means $50 is more. You have $50 more reduction. You have to calculate those $50 for the 8 weeks period. It gives you $400. That means only $400 will be reduced out of the maximum forgiveness that you're supposed to receive. This is what it means over here. Okay, I think it's a good thing. It's a good thing. But the government actually came here and said, you know what? We know how some employees are, because of all these very generous unemployment payment to people. Some people might not even be able to come back to work, and we noticed that. The government said, you know what, we are not going to penalize the business owner because of that. If someone has left the company and then you got the money, when you got the money, you count that person, that employee on your payroll size. On your payroll size, you count them. But now he left the company, it's on unemployment. You go there. If you try to actually make a good faith written offer to rehire that employee, right, during the COVID period, and the employee rejected the offer, that means you have one employee missing, right? And that will change your head count, right? The government said if you have the evidence of that, they will not affect your forgiveness amount or the head count. This is actually what they are saying. I think it's a good thing. So they are also saying that if an employee during the COVID period decide to actually or request to reduce his hour, remember, if you reduce the hour, it will affect your hourly count. Imagine that. I just explained how to get the hourly count, or the FTE equivalence, the average FTE equivalence. I just explained that 2 minutes ago. So if an employee decided to actually voluntarily request to reduce the number of hours, we will not consider that reduction to affect the forgiveness or the hourly count, the head count. That's what they're giving you. If an employee was fired for a good cause, right, or for a cause, That means he has done something that is really bad, that in the normal condition he should be fired, and he was actually fired by the boss. They will not account that to hurt your head count. That is what this law is saying. If the employee voluntarily resign, because maybe your business is still working, many businesses are still working, and he decides to leave the company, maybe because he knows that how generous it is the unemployment out there. He's thinking that he's going to go on unemployment. He decide to leave your company, right? They don't want that to affect you. So that's the good part of this law. So basically, what they want you to do is what? Try to take in consideration everything that we just say here, to see how you might not be affected by the number of employees that you have today compared to what you had earlier, given the reason why you don't have it. But if it's because of the COVID-19, like if you are the one to actually reduce his hours, no, it will affect you, because you can actually pay them. You don't have to reduce his hour. Why? Because you took the money for the full time. Why do you want to reduce his hour? Even though if he reduces his hour, keep paying him, or keep pointing the number of hours, because if you don't do that, it will reduce your forgiveness. You got the money because of the number of hours that you were claiming that he's working. Now, if you are reducing the number of hours, you're going to lose some type of forgiveness amount on the money you're supposed to receive. So yes, this is the main part that you have to know about this law, or this FFA application. Now, the other thing that you need to know is that, and I felt sad when I noticed that there was an update on May 22. They said that the EIDL was actually a grant. At the beginning, if you guys remember, I was talking about the EIDL, which was 10,000 grant that was actually given, and it was stated in the law. It's a grant. You don't have to pay it back. It was what is called EIDL advance. If you apply for the loan, you could be applying for the loan, I don't know the amount, maybe 25,000, 30,000, or 50,000, or 100,000. Now they were giving you an advance of up to 10,000, because they are assuming that it will take more time to actually, work onto your paperwork and allow the money. So they were giving up to 10,000 to business owner. But they noticed that so many business owners went to apply for the EIDL, which is Emergency Injury Disaster Loan. So many people wanted to apply for it. So they decided to say, okay, you know what? We will only give it to people 1,000 per employee, up to 10 employees. So some people got it. And it was intended to be free. But now the law came there and said, you know what? You will not take 2 forgiveness. You will not take 2 grand. That's basically what they're saying. If you are taking, you have taken the EIDL money, which was the grant up to 10,000, now we do all your calculation on the PPP side. You are allowed for, let's say, 75,000 forgiveness. Now they say no. You cannot get the forgiveness on both parts, right? They will actually reduce the 10,000 that you receive on the EIDL. They will remove that on the forgiveness. That means you were supposed to get 75,000 on the PPP side forgiven. Now they're going to go there and reduce it by 10,000. That means you only get 65,000 forgiven out of that money. So that is so sad, because now you have to pay that 10,000 back. Now it's up to you to figure out which side you want to keep it. If you want to keep it, on that side, it's better. You can use, your EIDL money to actually forgive and pay for that portion of your PPP, and keep the 10,000 actually being a loan, because it was a loan itself, and keep it being a loan. Or you can decide to pay that off, but consider a reduction of your PPP forgiveness. So that is actually what was surprising. But I think on the law, it might be possible. It might be possible that they come back and say, you know what, update that, you know what, yes, you can actually get your EIDL grant over there and keep getting all the 100% forgiveness on the emergency on the PPP side. So those were the main thing that you needed to know when come to the PPP loan. So that, and you know, it's pretty confusing sometimes, especially if you want to go by all this paper. It's pretty confusing. That's the reason why we thought that it would be easier to help business owner, actually to help our people first. Our people is our customer. It will be easier for you to help our customer, because remember, there were like $3.5 billion on the second round and of forgiveness for a PPP loan allowed to given to small businesses on the second round. It means what? It means when I say $3.2 billion, I'm talking about the portion of the $10 billion that the government set aside to help small business receive the loan. Out of those $3.2 billion, we still have $6.8 billion fund available by this time. So like yes, I have to remind that if you are receiving this video and you even forgot that you were supposed to apply, you are lucky, because on the first round all the money went out. That was $349 billion. It went out in 14 days. It was out. The second round, it's been there for, I think it's almost more than 3 weeks. It's still there for small business because the government actually put $10 billion in the account for what they call CDFI. Those are Community Development Financial Institutions, to actually help every small business in any community across the US to receive the money. That means if all the money, remember they gave the second one was $310 billion. So if the whole $300 billion is completely used, a new lender cannot just, or a new business owner cannot just go there and jump into the 10 billion. So that 10 billion is allowed to only what they call community development financial institutions. Those are mostly smaller lender or financial institution, because those lenders are most closer to small businesses and self-employer. You know, it's really difficult for, I don't know, a barbershop owner to go and apply with, I don't know which big bank. It will be difficult, but it will be easier for him to apply with a community development financial institution. You might be knowing that even PayPal is offering loan to people. I was able to get some loan through PayPal. So there are some small lenders. They are not even bank. They are just financial. Sometimes they are not even financial institution, but the government gave them the approval to give money to people. So basically, they put 10 billion aside for that. Up to now, or maybe up to yesterday 29, there were still up to more than 6 billion available. So you can go it. But the point I was trying to make here was that by May 23rd, right? By May 23rd, the government has actually issued like 4.4 million of PPP loan, right? Million of PPP loan to people. 4 million of PPP loan to people. That means you have like more than 4 million of small businesses and self-employed who will be out there trying to get their loan forgiven. And if you don't do it, that is a loan. You start incurring interest. You don't even know until you start receiving statement every month that, oh, you owe this money. So first of all, you have to act, and you have to act fast. When I say fast, it's because those financial institutions, you can imagine that they might be like full of people, full of applications. They might even want to hire new people to help them actually analyze or review all your paperwork. Remember what we said at the beginning of the first thing. You have to bring all the paperwork, like all the receipt, and now all the calculation, that how you got the numbers here, and they will review, and they have how many days? 60 days. They have 60 days to actually approve or deny your application. And the government actually has 90 days in order to pay them back. That means when they say, okay, you approve for forgiveness, you are not technically not approved yet, because the government is supposed to pay them that money. If the government doesn't pay that money, it's like you still owe them, right? So you have to act fast as you are getting close to the end of your period, covered period. That's the reason why we are trying to educate our customer. And with all of this, all this confusion into this loan, into the loan application process, we thought that if we cannot actually fully help all the customer, because it will be mathematically impossible for us, and I can imagine for many business, accounting business, to actually maintain the size of all the customer, like to help them, to apply for them. Let's say like that. Let's say you have $75,000. The best way to do it is to go and have your accountant or your financial institution, your bank, your CPA, whoever help you to understand much better this thing, to have them actually apply for you, because you know that they know better than you. But everyone can also do it. That's the reason why I'm coming here to explain, because we might not be able to even handle all our customers. So if you have one of our customers, those will not be able to, I mean, they sign up, but they are still waiting on the queue. They are saying, okay, here is how we can help you to actually go and do it yourself, because it's possible. And if they want to go and just figure everything by themselves, it will take them even longer time than being on the queue. So that's the reason why we work on some type of documentation, type of support that we will give out there to our people. But since we are public, we are working for like unlimited number of people when you're online, we will also make it available for any business owner who thinks that he doesn't have a time, or he keep booking, he look for where to get the help, he doesn't get the help. So we will put those documentation out there for you guys to just plug some simple number, you know, like when you use taxes, you plug the numbers inside the software and they just generate the result to you. That's basically what we are trying to do. We have made this available, and we will actually put it on this video. For the first one, it will be sold, but the first one to get it might even get it for free, because we are trying to help them to actually be forgiven in terms of PPP. So yes, that's the reason why we do that. We know some people might even do everything by themselves, right? Some people might just do everything by themselves. That's right. We see people doing their taxes by themselves. There are people, we have very smart people who do the tax right by themselves. We even see some people filing the complicated taxes by themselves, and they are confident. You know, you are always happy when you are confident, right? Until someone else, if you do your tax by yourself and someone else, an experienced tax professional, actually review your taxes and tell you how much you have lost or how much you have been losing. That is how you know that, oh, I know I might be smart, but there are some area that I might be lacking some type of point. Yes, so it's the same thing over here. The way we are explaining, if you are smart enough, you can just go there, take the paper, try to understand the paper more. Yeah, I didn't talk about those numbers. They say you have to use the number, you have to use the time of forgiveness, you have to use the time of the loan, you have to use the loan numbers. This information you can get from your bank. So basically, you can do all of this by yourself, but our point here is to help the max people we can, starting by our customer. Now, what we want to do is what? It's basically remind the new law that came in. Yes, there's this new law that came in. The new law that came in was actually a very good thing. Yes, we have to confess that. You have to confess that the new law came was a very new law. Why? Because the first thing that the new law is doing is to try to extend the length of the covered period. This is a very, very good thing for at least two reasons. The first reason is that employee was struggling to bring their employee back because they are on unemployment. So the extension of the covered period, they want it to be from 2 years basically to 6 years, right? This is 24 months now. No, I'm saying that's not right. They want to extend it from the 8-week period to 24 weeks period. That's what I mean. They want it to make from 8-week period to 24 weeks period. So this is how many weeks? 24 minus 8. If you divide it by 4 weeks, this is actually a couple of months. This is actually 6 months. I say 6 years instead of 6 months. So they are giving you actually 6 months. 6 months to be able to bring all your people on board. I think this is doable. I think it's doable because by that time the COVID-19 might be out. You might have been able, and the unemployment might not be that generous at that time, and people will be able to come back to work. So that was a very good move to allow people. That was a very good move to extend it. It passed through the House already. It was signed. It was approved at the House at almost 100%. On Thursday, it's going through the Senate. Hopefully, it will go through that and it will be signed. So the first thing is that the extension will help you to have more weeks in terms of payroll costs, right? Because remember, when you calculate the payroll cost for 8 weeks, from how they want you to calculate, it's not up to 75%, but it will be even more than 75% now. So this is a really, really good thing, all right? So basically, I go by that. I'm really happy about that update. And the other thing on the update is that they want to shift the 75-25 rules. The 75-25 rule says that you have to use up to the maximum you can. The minimum is not actually the maximum, because the law says that you can use your PPP loan 100% for payroll. There's no problem. The problem is when you use it less than 75%. That's what the law was saying. So if you take your money and you spend 80% of it, only 20% on payroll or non-payroll costs, you fine. It's when you use 70% on payroll costs that you are in trouble. Or I don't know, 72% or 73%. And we just say that even though you were to do exactly what they say, you didn't lose no employee in your company, you didn't you didn't get no reduction in terms of salary, like you didn't reduce the salary, the pay, the cost, how much you actually pay your people, you didn't reduce the amount. Some company might normally be okay, you know what, I'm going to reduce how much I'm paying because I'm not making too much money. You didn't do that. You did everything right. Even though you were to do everything right, you will be around 73%. That means that it is difficult for you for those 8 weeks. Now they're saying you have more weeks, you have more time in terms of payroll. Not only that, they want to shift the 75-25 to 60-40. That means they are giving you the opportunity to spend less money on payroll costs. Why? Because it's difficult to get your people on board. But you still having what is called in accounting overheads. Those overheads are those are costs that you incur. It doesn't matter about your business, how your business is doing. You still have to pay for a phone bill. You're not going to stay in your office with you switch the light off because you are not having customers. You're still going to have your phone bill, your water bill, your mortgage. If you own your business, you're still going to be receiving the bill from your mortgage company. If you have the line of credit, you're still receiving those. It doesn't matter if you're making business or no. So basically, they are saying that, okay, yeah, they have noticed it. So business owner came to us a complaint. They thought it was us that are deciding it. As we said, no, we are just following the law. So many people, then we send it up to those government and say, you know what, people are complaining. You try to help people, but it looks like that thing that you are putting them in the trap, right? So this is why they need more money to be eligible in terms of cost. So I think that the lawmakers, they were able to understand that and came up with a better, better split in terms of how much percentage you can use the money for. So yes, they are saying that you can use only 60% of the money they give you for payroll costs, and you can use up to 40%. That is a really generous. That is a really generous to me, of course, a really generous split. Yes, that's a really good split because you will be able to do that. Yes, so I really like that, and I really like that that split. That split because it will help so many businesses. It will help so many businesses to get on track, because people are, even now, they are struggling. They are struggling on how to get the max of their people back. It's not going to happen, for the next, I don't know, 2 months or 3 months. But some people were already at the point of applying. Some people were at the point of applying for the forgiveness. The people who receive the money at the beginning, they are at the point of applying for the forgiveness because they want to actually see the money being officially free to them. Yes, they want the money to be officially free to them. And this law, there are so many aspects of the law, right? And those are the main aspects that we think business owner at this time should consider. These are the main aspects that we think business owner at this time should actually consider. And they are pushing the June deadline, right? They are pushing the June deadline. I told you that you have to bring the payroll cost at what? At the way it was before the COVID-19 just hit the world. You have to bring it by June 30th. And people are already at the point of applying for forgiveness, and they have not reached that number of employees. So they are pushing it from June to the end of the year, December 31st, which is a really, really good thing, right? Which is a really good thing, yes. And they were also saying that if the company is getting the loan forgiveness, that's what the law was saying. If you are receiving the loan forgiveness, you cannot defer your payroll tax. One of the very good points on the payroll tax, on the law actually, on the PPP or the CARES Act. The CARES Act was that it was giving people, the possibility to actually keep their payroll costs for up to 2 years. That means, I went on live on this to explain that this is the opportunity, guys. You have the money you can use, because they are saying that, okay, every paycheck you are collecting money, payroll costs, payroll tax. Every quarter is supposed to, or every month is supposed to remit it and pay back to the government. The government is saying that out of this money, for the whole year 2020, keep the money. Don't give it to me for now. Wait in 2021 for the whole, collect again for 2021. At the end of 2021, give me half of it only. The other half, go to 2022 and give me the other half. So basically, the money they're giving you now could have stayed, the payroll could have stayed into your business for up to 2 years. Yes, half of it will stay for 1 year, the other half will stay for 2 years. So it was said that for the forgiveness, the first law was saying, okay, you know what? If you are receiving that money, that's a big favor that we are doing to you. You cannot actually keep at the same time, what they call deferred payroll tax. You cannot defer your payroll tax. You have to choose. If you didn't forgive it, then you have to keep paying the payroll tax back to us. But the new law is actually saying, hey guys, you can still receive it. You can still receiving the forgiveness, and you can still keep your payroll tax for 2 years, basically. Yes. So yeah, and the last thing is the how long you can use the loan for, right? The loan initially was for 2 months. It was for 2 months. Yeah, it was for 24 months. 24 months is 2 years. So they're saying, yeah, they are going to extend the time you can pay that money back, because even though it becomes a loan, you can use it, right? You can use that loan. You can have more time to actually pay the loan back. That's what he's saying. I think it's they push it to 5 years, if I'm not wrong. They extend it to 5, so you have plenty of time, even though you have a portion of the loan, the money that's supposed to be a grant, but you don't have the full forgiveness. The portion that is not forgiven, you have now more time to be able to push it back, right? To be able to pay it back. That's what I mean. Yes, that was everything that I have for you guys, and hopefully you receive something out of it. If you have a question, ask the question on the comment section of this video. It will be my pleasure to go there and answer you as quick as I can. So basically, again, if you are new to the channel, just hit the subscription and the notification bell, and anytime we have a new content like this one, you will be informed about. So thank you so much, guys, and be safe out there. Bye bye.